I had another career before becoming an IR scholar, and I used to work in the international development field. And one of the things that I noticed was that without political will, development projects never really took off and were never successful. I got my PhD from Florida International University in Miami, Florida. My current research is on the geopolitics of energy in Southern Africa. I travel to Southern Africa a lot, and one of the things that I noticed when doing research over there is that there are always these major power cuts. So I started trying to trace where the power cuts come from, why there's a crisis of energy in Southern Africa, and it brought about these geopolitical implications. So something as mundane as your electricity supplies actually linked to these broader geopolitical concerns. I feel like the students are really curious. I also learn a lot from them, from their own experiences and their positionality in life. What's interesting is that we actually have a lot in common. What we value is ultimately the same. I really try to foster critical thinking. A lot of students come in thinking that they have to have all these facts, they have to know specific things. But what you find in my classroom is I use this Socratic method. You know, what is the broad concept? What is a democracy? What is security? What is development? And then we have conversations about how those concepts have been constructed, and we deconstruct them. And one thing that I always tell my students is that if we end up with 30 different explanations for the same phenomenon, I would have done my job, because it means that we're borrowing from different sources of information and different pieces of evidence and analyzing them and justifying them the best we can. And that to me is a successful class. I did take a trip to South Africa with one of my former students. He had approached me to be his research assistant, and I told him about this research I was doing on a tribe in Africa called the Royal Bafokeng Nation. It's considered the richest ethnic group in Africa because they've got platinum resources on their ancestral ground. So the Royal Bafokeng Nation is a really interesting case study in looking at how communities, indigenous communities, can actually turn their geological luck into actual sustainable development. It really helped with his graduate school application, showcasing that he's actually conducted research, gone to the field, conducted interviews. We've co-authored a peer-reviewed paper together. That student is now a master's student at the University of San Francisco, so he's doing really well. Yeah, I love to travel. I'm a globe trotter, so to speak, in all aspects of that term. Right now I'm trying to travel to Buenos Aires in Argentina. That's part of the reason I chose international relations, because there's that international aspect. So I've traveled to Dubai. That was one of my favorite places to visit. I've also traveled to Australia and to Switzerland. I also have a very international palette, and when it comes to music, one of my favorite artists is Salif Keita. He's from Mali. Very poignant, melancholic music that he performs. I also have a very diverse palette. I love anything. So I've got a very adventurous palette, let's put it that way. I've eaten everything from crocodile tails, snails, everything. So yeah.